Welcome back to the Camilla Tominey Show on GB News. I'm joined now by Alexander Larman, the author of a new book, Power and Glory, the latest release in his trilogy series about the royal family. Alexander, lovely to see you this morning. We've got it flashed up there.
Wonderful. Lovely
book cover featuring the Queen with her father there, George VI. Wonderful. Let's talk about whether the monarchy is in crisis, because I know the book covers the abdication crisis and I suppose the aftermath of Princess Diana's death and all of the trials and tribulations that the royals have faced in living memory. But the monarchy today, the King diagnosed with cancer, the Princess of Wales diagnosed with cancer, is it a crisis?
Well, it's not a crisis in terms of the abdication crisis, which is obviously a constitutional crisis, but it's a personal and family crisis, which is extending out into how the monarchy is being perceived. Because one of the themes in my book is that George VI had cancer, and it was concealed from him and concealed from everybody else.
Let me just stop you on that. Concealed from him?
Yes.
What was he told?
Well, he was told that he had this illness, which was advanced bronchitis. And even though he had to have his lung removed,
yes,
he was still being told there was nothing seriously the matter with him.
And was it true to say that he was operated on within Buckingham Palace because they obviously didn't want news to get out that he was seriously ill?
Yes, there was a makeshift operating theatre constructed. And he's very stoic about it. I mean, he said that he didn't mind going under the surgeon's knife and things like that. But it's a remarkable idea, isn't it, that the king could be lied to by the surgeons around him because they were so fearful this news would come out. And you have to look at reputations and the way in which having a king with cancer would be seen as somehow shameful.
So it's interesting that now, all these decades on, that we've had such honesty from Buckingham Palace. Initially, before the cancer was diagnosed, we obviously had those words, enlarged prostate, in a Buckingham Palace missive, which I don't think we'd have seen before. Is it a good thing that the palace are being more transparent about these health conditions, or is it actually destabilising?
I think the palace has to be more honest because, you can look what happened with Kate, where when the whole truth wasn't being revealed, the speculation got so wild. People were coming forward with the most outrageous ideas, and these were being taken seriously in mainstream circles. And I think one thing is that we are obsessed by the health of the royal family because as the first family in this country, we looked for them to set an example, and the fact that at the moment 2 of the senior members have cancer is absolutely unprecedented. And we certainly haven't seen a situation like this in history.
Although it's interesting, isn't it, how the palace responds to social media trolling. I appreciate that obviously the young Princess Elizabeth and indeed Princess Margaret and George VI and the Queen Mother, when they were bringing up those daughters, they weren't having to live in this age of sort of 24-hour news and people publishing whatever they like with impunity on the internet. You then have to ask yourself the extent to which the palace responds to that, because there were some that might have said that the Princess of Wales even entertaining the idea of posing up for Mothering Sunday and releasing an image was just to answer critics that are never ever going to be satisfied, let's be honest. There's always going to be trolls on social media for whom there is no response that is the right response.
And they have carried on to this day. But I think one thing that's very interesting is, if you look at the difference between the responses, Buckingham Palace came forward very quickly and gave a fairly candid idea of what's happening with Charles, what his illness is. Kensington Palace didn't. And I think that's because Prince William is much more into the vein of never complain, never explain, which was his grandmother's motto, his great-grandfather's motto, and has always served the royal family well. But it doesn't hold up in 2024 because you've got to allow the idea that information is going to get out into the public, whether you like it or not.
Yes. Well, sometimes the royals take ownership of their own information, don't they? We think back to the Megxit bombshell, Harry and Meghan announcing that on their own website. How damaging do you think Megxit has been for the royal family?
I don't think it's been particularly damaging at all, actually, because I think that Harry and Meghan, initially, there was all the controversy and the difficulty. But ever since Harry published his memoir, Spare, which was a ridiculous book, there's no sense whatsoever that they are a serious couple. I was looking at the American Riviera Orchard revelation the other day, and I thought...
Yeah, that's Meghan's new lifestyle brand.
And I thought, Wallace Simpson, who's obviously Meghan's spiritual forebear, would have done her own lifestyle brand, but with quite so crass a title. No, I don't think so.
Do you think Harry and Meghan are a sort of latter-day Edward and Wallace?
I think they definitely are, yes. And you can see the haplessness that Edward had in Harry. You can also see the steely determination to make money in Meghan. So I think they're very lucky to find each other because they've made 2 people miserable rather than 4. And much the same thing can be said about the Duke and Duchess of Windsor.
Welcome back to Royal News Daily, where the crown meets the headlines. Today, we're examining the latest comments from author and royal historian Alexander Larman, who shared his views on Prince Harry and Meghan Markle during a recent GB News discussion. As always, we clearly distinguish between verified facts, reported information, and expert opinions to provide balanced and informative coverage of the British royal family. If you enjoy trusted royal family news, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest updates. Now, let's begin. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have once again become the focus of royal debate after author Alexander Larman offered a highly critical assessment of the Sussexes during a GB News discussion. Larman argued that he sees no sense whatsoever that Harry and Meghan are a serious couple. He also remarked that the pair were made for each other, suggesting they had found one another because, in his opinion, they shared similar outlooks and had become increasingly isolated from the royal family. He went further by comparing the Sussexes to Edward VIII and Wallis Simpson, arguing that both couples have experienced strained relationships with the monarchy while attempting to build new lives outside royal duties. However, it is important to emphasize that these comments are Alexander Larman's personal opinions and should not be interpreted as established facts. There has been no official statement from Prince Harry or Meghan Markle suggesting that their marriage is in difficulty. Since stepping back as senior working royals in 2020, Harry and Meghan have continued to pursue charitable initiatives through the Archewell Foundation, media production projects, public speaking engagements, and philanthropic work. Supporters argue that the couple remain committed to each other and continue to shape independent careers outside the institution of the monarchy. Critics, including Larman, believe that some of the Sussexes' decisions and public appearances have damaged their image and raised questions about their long-term direction. Ultimately, much of the debate surrounding the couple remains based on commentary rather than verified evidence.
I know that your book is looking back at living memory of the royals. What would you say has been, let's look at actually the reign of Queen Elizabeth II, sort of stalwart on the throne, a guiding presence. We think about her "We'll meet again" speech and other key moments, and obviously her reign was characterised by her never having really put a foot wrong. However, what do you think might have been one of the key mistakes she made, and what do you think is probably her greatest triumph of her reign?
Well, I think her greatest triumph was for sheer longevity, and as you say, she never put a serious foot wrong. There was never any discussion about her abdicating the throne. There was never any discussion about her causing any kind of harm to the institution of the royal family. I think the only misstep she ever made was how she handled Diana's death.
Yes.
Because I feel that, again, the never complain, never explain adage didn't work back in 1997. And you can see that it probably stopped working around the time she became queen, actually, because we live in an age of mass communication. We live in an age where people want to know the news instantly. And if you are this major institution which is blocking the news and blocking the output of news, you're going to end up in a situation where people are disappointed, and then they start to look for something else. And I think that being slow to realise what the changing world is has always been a problem with the royal family.
Prince Harry and Meghan Markle stepped back as senior members of the royal family in 2020 before relocating to California. Since then, they have launched documentaries, interviews, books, charitable projects, podcasts, and other media ventures while continuing their work through the Archewell Foundation. Author Alexander Larman is a British historian and writer known for his books on the royal family and British history. He frequently appears on television discussing royal affairs and historical comparisons involving the monarchy. His comparison between Harry and Meghan and the Duke and Duchess of Windsor reflects his personal historical interpretation rather than an official assessment. Reaction has been divided. Some viewers agree with Alexander Larman's analysis, believing the Sussexes have struggled to redefine their public role since leaving royal duties. Others argue that public commentators cannot accurately judge a marriage based solely on media appearances and believe Harry and Meghan continue to support each other while pursuing individual careers. Many royal watchers believe the couple's future should be judged by their actions rather than speculation. Alexander Larman's latest comments have reignited debate about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's relationship and their place in modern royal history. While his opinions have generated headlines, they remain commentary, not confirmed facts.
Although she kind of turned a mistake into one of her greatest triumphs, I thought, because when she did give the televised address, where she spoke not just as your queen but as a grandmother, she really managed to rescue what was looking like an increasingly difficult situation that week, to be fair to the late queen.
Oh, absolutely. And she turned it around magnificently. And one thing she was always so good at, and you just referenced her "We'll meet again" speech, is that she understood the mood of the nation. And I think that was partly because she had an excellent comms team around her, really dedicated private secretaries. But it was also because, as somebody who was a veteran of the institution of monarchy, she'd seen every conceivable challenge that could have been levelled at her, and she overcame all of them. And she was a deeply remarkable woman.
On the King, it's interesting to see reports that he does look as if he wants to go ahead with a 2-week visit to Australia this October. That's despite him being nearly 76 by that point and undergoing cancer treatment. Is that a good idea, do you think? I mean, there's this sense, I think, that he needs to shore up the Commonwealth, which wasn't a discussion that necessarily took place on the late Queen's watch.
Well, I think it's a thing that kings always want to do, which is to announce this great foreign trip that's going to firm up their reign. I mean, George VI wanted to go to Australia as well, and he wasn't able to. And you go back further in history, and Henry IV was obsessed by going to Jerusalem. So I think there's always a sense that a king will say, I want to do this trip. But the Commonwealth is very much up in the air, isn't it? Because Prince William has publicly said that he believes the Commonwealth will probably come to an end during his reign. And obviously, we have no idea when that reign is going to begin, because we can say we think the Commonwealth is going to exist for another 10, 20, 30 years. But is it really?
OK, Alexander Larman, thank you very much for joining me this morning. Your book, Power and Glory, I think, is out now, if people would like to read it.
As always, understanding the distinction between verified information and personal opinion is essential when following royal family news. What do you think? Do you agree with Alexander Larman's assessment of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, or do you believe the criticism goes too far? Share your thoughts respectfully in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's update, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more balanced coverage of the British royal family. Thank you for watching Royal News Daily, where the crown meets the headlines.